What's up, everyone? I hope y'all are doing well this summer. Congratulations to X20 and Adeline Dorkey. X, you should have already received your shirt last Friday, and I haven't heard from Adeline. So, Adeline, if you're listening to this, please email me your size and address before the end of the month at pocketsizedtales@gmail.com. I'll have my email in the link in the description. I thank y'all and appreciate y'all for supporting the channel. For everyone who would like a chance to win a free t-shirt, please like, comment, and subscribe, especially leaving comments, whether it be in the video or in the community section, because that's how I pick out the random winners each month. Sizes are limited, and I will be giving out t-shirts until I'm completely out. Also, if you haven't seen the mini animation project, I collaborated with MV Horror. I will have that displayed at the end of the story. Thank you, MV, for collaborating with me on this. I'll also have a link to her page at the end as well. Y'all, please show her some love because animating takes up a lot of time and effort. Some of y'all may or may not have noticed, but I finally got access to linking the Pocket Shop to the YouTube page, as well as super thanks. So if y'all want to support the channel, please purchase some merchandise or leave me a super thanks. That's all the news I have for now. Y'all have a wonderful week. Stay safe, stay hydrated, stay cool in this heat. Let's get on with the story. Thanks, everyone. A Haunting Love. My name is Lolly. I was an avid gamer all through high school, and even afterwards. After graduation, I didn't have much going on. All I did was play video games. I also didn't have a job at the time. My parents kept bugging me to attend college, but I hated school. I got tired of their constant nagging, so I decided to start applying for jobs. My plan was to save enough money and move out. Eventually, after a year, I found a job at a manufacturing plant nearby. In a few years, I was able to save enough money to get my own place. It was a duplex and was far from luxurious, but it would do until I found a better paying job. Moving out was the best decision I ever made. I did whatever I wanted, and my parents weren't there nagging me 24/7. At the time, I was in my early 20s, and while some of my peers partied and hit up the clubs, I played video games. I've gone out a few times, but the party scene just didn't appeal to me. This was during the early 2000s, before console systems had the capability to play multiplayer online games, so on the PC was how I was able to play with people from different parts of the US and around the world. It was through my late-night gaming sessions that I met my ex-girlfriend, Samantha. I called her Sam for short. I found out she was Hmong like me, and we got to talking. Like me, she was also an introvert, and we had a lot in common. She was 18 and from Minnesota. Her story was just like mine. Sam recently graduated from high school and was unemployed. She was living at home with her parents. They were pressuring her to go to college, but she refused. At first, we chatted outside the game on AOL or MSN Messenger. Then we traded pictures. I thought she was cute, and she liked my appearance. Sam gave me her number, and we started talking over the phone. She was having a lot of issues at home with her parents. As taboo as it was in our culture, I offered her my place to stay if she wanted. She thought it was a crazy idea, but decided to take me up on my offer. So she packed her things and moved to North Carolina with me. I don't know how her parents felt about her decision. I tried to ask Sam about it, but she didn't seem to care what they thought. Their relationship was quite rocky, was my impression. We've never met in person until then. Sam didn't look much different from her photo, except in person she was paler and didn't seem like she had much sleep, judging from the bags under her eyes. Everything seemed great, which was better than expected. Aside from a beat-up car and my own place, I didn't have much else, which Sam was totally fine with. Unlike other girls I've talked to before, she was really down to earth and low maintenance. She slept a lot the first few days she got to my place, but with time, looked more like how she did in her picture. While I worked, she helped around the house, cooked me dinner, and packed my lunch. I told her she didn't have to, but Sam said she was more than happy to do so. We still played games together, but not as much in person. On my days off, we'd go out on dates, like a movie and dinner. Never anything super extravagant. That was how life went. I never told my family about her, and I doubted Sam's family cared what she did. One night, I got up to use the restroom, and this was before I had a smartphone. I had the door open while sitting on the toilet doing my business when a shadowy figure in the hallway darted past the bathroom. From the edge of my peripheral, I saw it go in the direction of my bedroom. Instinctively, I glanced out into the hallway, but it was gone. At that moment, I lost all will to use the restroom, so I cleaned up and quickly made my way back to my room. Sam was still sound asleep from the illumination of the nightlight, and I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. I climbed back into bed. Wrapping my arms around her, I kissed her goodnight. After that, I kept having terrible recurring nightmares. In the visions, I'd be carrying on with my day, then suddenly I'm being stalked by this shadowy being. For some odd reason, the thing made it known that it was a male. I could feel an intense hatred radiating from it toward me. Work started at 5 a.m., so I usually get out of bed by 4. One morning, when I was about done brushing my teeth and rinsing my mouth, as I leaned over and spat into the sink, I caught a glimpse of the Shadow Man standing behind me. Terrified, I spun around to check if he was really there, but the Shadow Man was gone. I was quite shaken up for the rest of the day afterward. That night, I had the worst nightmare ever. I dreamt I was at a Hmong funeral. There were people wailing as the ritual song from the drum and thing played in the background. I didn't recognize anyone there, but something drew me to the front of the room to the open casket. Curious, I made my way there to see who it was. I caught a whiff of a rotting, foul odor. The smell became stronger and more pungent the closer I got. I was practically dry heaving by the time I reached the casket. I couldn't believe how no one noticed the smell. I had no doubt where the source of the smell came from. Pinching my nose, I looked into the coffin. Laying inside of it was a man. Hard to tell how old he was when he died, due to the state of decomposition. His face was dark and bloated, his lips curled back, exposing the blackened gums. Had I not known any better, I would have thought the man was snarling. As bad as the rotten stench was, his horrid appearance was beyond what I could have created in the furthest depths of my nightmare. I wanted to step back and flee the scene, but before I had a chance, the dead man's eyes flew open, and his cold hands shot up to seize my neck. I clawed and struck at his arms, but it was useless against his unholy strength. Then, from out of nowhere, I was somehow pinned beneath him. On top of me was the corpse, with his hands still wrapped tightly around my neck. It was then I realized I was dreaming and being strangled to death on my own bed. No matter how hard I struggled, I couldn't wake myself up. After what seemed like hours, I was finally able to turn onto my stomach as the surface beneath me gave way and something hard slammed into me. I awoke suddenly, finding myself on the floor of my room, sandwiched between my blanket. Panting and sweating heavily, I sat up with my back against the bed, trying to gather myself. It was morning, and I could see the sunlight beginning to stream into the room. Sam was still asleep. Though I couldn't see her, I could hear her light and constant breathing. Had I not been able to wake up, I thought for sure I would have died. Thinking I may be late for work, I jumped to my feet, only to realize it was my day off, so I breathed a sigh of relief. That episode of sleep paralysis bothered me for a while. It got so bad I hardly got any sleep, afraid the dead man would come back and finish me off in my dreams. His haunting white eyes continued to terrorize me, even during my waking hours. I don't know if it was my lack of sleep, but I felt something was watching me all the time. Every so often, I saw the Shadow Man lurking in the corners of my vision. I was almost positive he and the dead man were the same person, but what was their connection? Life went on like that for some time, and I became extremely agitated. Sam seemed different. more distant toward me. We went weeks without being intimate. Then, the fighting started. We fought over every little thing, even though we never argued up to that point. It got really bad. Though I never verbalized it, I suspect she was cheating on me. Despite it all, we still remained together. I figured it was because she couldn't or didn't want to go back home. On another night, as with every night since that horrible experience, I fought to stay up until exhaustion overcame me. But on that particular night, I was awakened by a strange sensation. It felt like ice-cold liquid being spilled or splashed onto my back. Sometimes I found myself sleeping with my back to Sam, so I turned to her, thinking she brought in a drink and accidentally spilled it. I felt around, but there was nothing wet, and Sam was still asleep. However, that icy-cold presence lingered there, but only on her side. Unable to explain the phenomenon, I attributed it to something otherworldly. It was so cold I had goosebumps and could see my breath in the air in the dim lighting. The blanket we had over us was practically useless. Sam was shivering and whimpering at that point. Jur, you're here. I'm glad. Haven't seen you in so long, Sam said in Hmong. Who was Jur? Confused, I listened further.
I came to your house and you were gone. I looked everywhere for you,
Sam said in a deep, unnatural voice. What was that? How'd she do that with her voice? I couldn't believe Sam was having a full-blown conversation with herself while asleep. A chill crept down my spine, and a knot began to form in my throat upon hearing the words. My heart hammered loudly against my ribcage, threatening to wake whatever it was that had control of my girlfriend. I lay there, trembling in fear, holding my breath.
Who's that guy?
He's no one.
Lies. You're lying. No one else can have it.
Sam sat straight up, her hair a tangled mess, her back straight and stiff with the sheets peeling off her like a rising corpse from a morgue. With her mouth agape, she cranked her head in my direction. The whites of her haunting eyes glared at me with intense hate. They were the exact ones from my nightmare. Terrified, I began hyperventilating. I tried to get away, but my body wouldn't respond. She lunged at me. Finally, through some miracle, I was able to roll off my bed at the last second. There was a loud clang as my head slammed onto the floor. Bright lights filled my vision, and within a blink of an eye, I was no longer in my room. You all right, brother? Asked a familiar male voice. Dazed and confused, I took a moment to gather myself. Standing above me was Jose, my friend from work. Beside me was a folding chair on its back. A second later, 2 other coworkers came running over. Jose extended his hand to me as the other men aided me to my feet. I rubbed the throbbing pain at the back of my head and felt a huge knot there. What happened? I asked. I was there eating and you fell asleep, he said, pointing to the spot across the table where I sat. About 5 minutes later, I guess you must have leaned back in your chair and fell. I remember now, I said, staggering back to my seat. One of the men already had my chair back to its original position. They were all hovering around in case I fell again, which I appreciated. I thanked them and told them I was fine as I took my seat. Jose disappeared and returned with an ice pack in hand. Sure you don't need an ambulance or anything? He asked with a look of concern, handing me the pack. I thanked him and placed it behind my head. I'll be okay. You should go see a doctor, or take a few days off or something. You don't look good and haven't been yourself lately, Jose said. Thanks, I'll consider the options, I responded. Despite my reservations to return to my house, I decided to do so anyway. That evening when I got home, Sam was gone. The house was clean as usual, and my bed was made. At the foot of it was an envelope. With a heavy heart, I opened it. As expected, there was a letter inside. I quickly opened and unfolded the note. It read, Hey babe, I'm sorry to leave you on such short notice. Just wanted to say I've had an amazing past couple months and enjoyed every moment with you. I wished things could have been different. I don't know how else to tell you this, but I'm not normal. And even though we never talked about it, I know about the strange occurrences you must have been experiencing since I arrived. And for that, I'm terribly sorry. It's an issue I have to deal with on my own. I love you too much to put you through it. Please do not look for me. If it's meant to be, we'll see each other again. I need you to do one last thing. You need to go stay with your family for a few nights. Please do this for me. Love always, Sam. There were so many questions I had that I didn't know if I'd ever find the answers to. But I did as she said. I packed my clothes and went to my parents. When they asked, I told them my landlord was making some renovations to the house. I stayed at their place for a week before coming home. Though I missed Sam greatly, life returned to normal, and I no longer experienced those hauntings. I still couldn't help but wonder what happened to her or why she left. At times I'd stare at her number for a long while, contemplating if I should call her. I even thought about deleting her number off my phone since the pain was too much to bear. Like an addict, I almost gave in many times. Fortunately, I always fought off the temptation to call her. A month went by and I had a dream. In it, I was walking through a forest and stumbled onto a lush green field with colorful flowers of all kinds. I was somehow dressed in a traditional black Hmong outfit with blue sleeves. The sky was blue and turning yellow just as the sun began to set. I spotted a figure from a distance. It was a woman dressed in a chic, modern-styled white Hmong dress filled with silver ornate patterns. Glimmering beads hung from the edge of her hat and sash. She was staring into the horizon opposite me, almost as if looking for someone. I couldn't see her face, but she gave off a sense of familiarity, driving me toward her. I continued making my way to the woman, but paused as another man appeared across the way. He was dressed in a white outfit, perfectly matching the woman's. She was halfway between him and I. The woman waved at him. Smiling, the man waved back. The woman turned to me with her big, bright smile. My eyes widened, and my heart skipped a beat. She was so beautiful, even more so than I remembered. "Sam!" I shouted and bolted toward her. She turned and ran toward the other man. I ran as hard and as fast as I could, but she kept getting further away. My heart thundered relentlessly in my chest, and my vision blurred from the tears welling up in my eyes. I continuously wiped at them, all the while still chasing my beloved. "Stop! Come back!" I shouted, but Sam wouldn't. She just kept going. The man took her hand, and they both made their way toward the sunset. I fell to my knees, panting heavily, with tears streaming down my face. I was so out of breath. At that point, I could hardly speak. "Come back," I said in a whisper, reaching out for her. I watched helplessly as Sam and the other man gradually started fading away. She turned back to me one last time with that bright, beautiful smile of hers and dematerialized before my eyes forever. Even with a broken heart, I couldn't help but smile back. Then I woke up with tear-filled eyes on a late afternoon on my couch. On TV was an episode of Ponderosa playing. On the screen of my phone was Sam's number. I must have fallen asleep while staring at it, deciding if I should call her or not. I wondered if it had all just been a dream, or was she telling me something more? Sam said I shouldn't reach out to her. I also promised myself I wouldn't, but it was too hard not to. After that dream, I decided to call her cell. My heart was beating out of my chest as I waited. It rang several times until someone eventually answered. It was a female voice. "Sam, is that you?" I stuttered in a scratchy voice. "No, sorry, this is Tia. "Who's this?" she asked. I wondered why Tia, if that was her real name, had Sam's phone. I wished I knew more about her friends and family, but she never talked about them. I was going to lie about my name, but decided to be honest with her and not press her about the phone. I'm Lolly. Is Sam around?" "You must be her boyfriend," she said, avoiding the question. How'd you know?" "Well, it said babe on the screen when you called," she chuckled. "Oh, that makes sense. So are you like her sister, or—" "Yeah, she's my baby sister." "Oh, cool. Glad she has someone to look after her," I said, laughing nervously. "So—" I was going to ask for Sam again when Tia spoke before I could get my question out. "Look, you probably don't know this, but—" I could tell something was bothering her. Not wanting to be disrespectful, I continued listening intently without a word. Tia sniffled, then said, "Sorry, I just needed a moment. As I was saying, you probably didn't know, and there's no easy way to say this," she said, her voice shaking. Tia was crying, I could tell, and my heart weighed heavily with anticipation, even though deep down I knew what she was about to tell me, but I wanted to hear it for myself. Sam's no longer with us," Tia sobbed. The contagious pain in her voice triggered the pain in my heart. Upon hearing the news, I choked back a sob of my own, eyes blurry with tears. I was so taken back by the news, I couldn't speak. There was a long pause between us. What happened?" I finally asked. Tia informed me Sam had a boyfriend before me in high school. They planned on getting married after graduation, but both his and Sam's parents objected. It seemed the parents had some personal vendetta against one another. Distraught, they attempted to take their own lives. Sam survived, but her boyfriend didn't. Ever since then, Sam was never the same. Her boyfriend returned as a vengeful ghost, haunting Sam and their family. During the nights, the ghost would possess Sam's body and terrorize the family. It got so bad, she had to be restrained. Sam eventually stopped going to sleep at night to prevent harm to her family. I believe some called it sundowning, but no one really knows, said Tia. The family tried all sorts of rituals to appease his ghost and heal Sam. They even started attending church. They were all temporary fixes. They worked fine for a time, but the ghost would always return. Everyone became really afraid of her. It got worse for her and the family when the community learned about Sam's circumstances. They shunned her, thinking she'd bring a curse or bad luck upon any crossing her path. Soon, Sam became a recluse in her own room and was rarely seen by anyone anymore. Even most of her family gave her a wide berth whenever she came around. Sam lived a sad life and was labeled as mentally unwell. When she disappeared, her family was actually relieved since the hauntings stopped. All that's left now is shame and regret, Tia said, crying. Maybe we should have gotten her more help. If we would have just had her committed to a mental institute, maybe she'd be alive right now. I hated to imagine her being in such a place. It angered me to even think about it. I held my tongue as Tia continued. My sister loved playing video games. When all the issues started occurring, Sam once told me that was how she was able to maintain control of her body during the nights. She said it was the one thing she looked forward to more than anything. I'd been able to remain somewhat composed, holding back tears throughout most of the conversation up to that point. When Tia said that, I was reminded of how Sam and I first met, the conversations we had in-game, and eventually outside of it, leading up to us meeting for the first time. Visions of silly conversations around the dinner table over her home-cooked meals, us making do with a walk along the beach on a less than perfect day, and our first kiss as we sat under the stars. All our precious memories and intimate emotions I kept bottled up for such a long time came forth like an erupting volcano. I gotta go, I told Tia and hung up. Dropping to my knees, I gave myself permission to let it all out as I wept and sobbed hysterically. I remained single for a long time afterward. It would be years later before I opened my heart to someone else and finally met my wife. I'm almost in my mid-40s now, and we have 4 kids together. Life is good, and I couldn't be happier. Sam, wherever you are, I wish you the best and hope you're as happy as I am. I thank you for teaching me about love, loss, and an appreciation for those around me.